Hi everyone, my name is Kartik and my channel is about mental models. In this video I'll be looking at the proximate versus root cause mental model. Proximate cause means the immediate or closest to cause, whereas the root cause is the underlying reason, or it could be explained as the initiating reason for a certain chain of events that leads to something happening, which is what we are analysing. A good example of this will be a row of dominoes. So we've got something like this, and if we look at this domino, what is the reason why this domino is falling over? Well, you would say it's the domino next to it pushing it over. So this domino that's next to it is the proximate cause. But then the domino next to that is pushing that one over, the domino next to that is pushing that one over, and so this is it's going along a few steps. So if we look at the original root cause, it's probably someone's finger that's pushed the first domino, and so the rest of them have fallen over, and so this is your root cause. The finger is your root cause. Now, this mental model is about getting to the real or the root cause by looking at what has happened and why, and it's not about stopping at the closest thing that has caused the event. A byproduct is that this mental model also promotes thinking of new ways and approaches to solve a problem. Now, if we go back a few videos, you'll remember the thought experiment mental model video where I gave an example of why a penalty was given. The specific example was to speculate the root cause of why the penalty was given, of why that event happened. This mental model will develop that further to help determine the action that ultimately led to the event or circumstance we are analysing. Now, there are simple causes and effects, such as my leg is hurting because I banged it against the table. So the cause is the bang. Then there are ones like, say, if I hadn't decided to go into work and worked from home, I would have missed the surprise visit from the CEO. So let's say the effect is the surprise visit, and the cause of that is because I went to the office. But in life, anything can happen. So these are kind of simple. But in life, anything can happen, and so the mental model has to work regardless to find what the real cause is. And the objective is that if you know the root cause of an event, then you can go and address the real problem and solve it. Now, we can analyse a given situation in many different ways, and within this analysis should be a phase to identify causes and to determine the root cause. But remember, getting to the root cause of an event can be difficult. Now, there are a couple of techniques, so I'm going to call them two techniques that you can use. The first one we've already come across, which is called the Socratic questioning method. And we came across this, I'm going to call it SQM for short, and we came across this in my very first video on first principles. The Socratic questioning method, as I mentioned previously, is about repeatedly questioning assumptions and breaking down a subject. It is also about looking for evidence to prove or disprove an idea. Now, just as we can get to the fundamental components by breaking down a subject, the SQM method can also get to a root cause by breaking down an event to understand how we got there. Now, as I've covered SQM in the first video by looking at a few examples, I won't revisit it here, as applying the method to determine a root cause is a similar exercise to what I explained in the first video. Now, another way, so that's one way, another way is the 5 whys method, and it's exactly as it sounds. It's about asking why 5 times to get to a root cause. Just to add, the reason why I call this the 5 whys method, or why it is called the 5 whys method, is because the usual number of repetitions required is 5 times. So let's look at this with a few examples. So the 5 whys method. Example 1. So you've got a problem that your food blender, it's my food blender, has stopped working. So that stopped working. So that's the problem. So why? Basically, the motor won't run. Why won't the motor run? It's because the fuse has blown. Why has the fuse blown? Well, there was too much current. Why was there too much current? Well, the motor was overloaded. Why was the motor overloaded? Well, because the food being blended, the weight of it was greater than the limit for the food blender. And that is sort of the 5th why. Now, in terms of proximate versus root cause, the proximate cause is the first one here. It's the closest to the problem. Why did the food blender stop working? Because the motor stopped working. So that's the proximate cause. But the root cause is all the way down here. It's because the weight of the food was greater than the limit that the blender could hold. So that's the root cause. And therefore the solution, essentially, because we've identified the root cause, the solution would be to identify the weight limits and then use the blender within those limits. If we'd stopped at the proximate cause and said, oh, the motor stopped working, let's just replace the motor, we would have probably done the same thing of blending a higher weight than the limit of food, and the next motor would have blown, and the motor would have, subsequent motors would have kept on blowing. But by going through this exercise and understanding that, oh, actually it's the food weight, we can act within the weight limits of the blender, therefore future motors won't blow, the blender won't stop working. And so that's why we need to get to the root cause so we can address the real problem. Let's look at another example. Let's say there is a pipe and there is leakage. So there's water in the pipe and the water is leaking. So there is leakage in the pipe. So why is there leakage in the pipe? Well, couldn't support the water pressure? Why couldn't it support the water pressure? Well, pipework was inadequate. Why was the pipework inadequate? Well, it wasn't checked. Why? Well, the checks were incomplete. Why were the checks incomplete? The person doing the checking was untrained or not trained properly. So again, why was there a leakage in the pipe? This is your proximate cause, because it couldn't support the water pressure. But the root cause was that the person doing the checking did not have the proper training or was untrained. And therefore the solution, because we've identified the root cause, would be to, well, provide training to the person. So again, if we'd stopped at the proximate cause, we would have said, oh, okay, the pipe can't support the water pressure, let's replace the pipe. And there's a good chance that we would have done a like-for-like replacement, and even that pipe would have been inadequate to support the water pressure. But by addressing the root cause, by giving the person training, they will in future know that, oh, okay, the wrong pipe has been installed, it can't support this water pressure, we will replace it with a better quality pipe, or a pipe that can support the water pressure. Now, these are instances where there is one root cause, but there are also cases where there are more than one root cause. And I'll just very quickly go through one example. So let's say, this is example 3. Let's say a firm is making a loss. And so the first question is, why? There's 2 reasons. So this is in a tree structure. One reason is the income is too low. The other reason is the costs are too high. So if we take the income branch first, why is the income too low? 2 reasons here. Let's say over reliance on few customers, and I suppose not a why, but as a consequence of this, we've lost a client. So the why question is up here. So why is income too low? There is over-reliance on few customers. The other reason is products are bought less. So we can sort of go down this and say, okay, well, why? Well, more competition. And again, you can sort of say, well, why is there more competition? Better economic climate. Now, if we do the same thing on the other side of the costs being too high, why are the costs too high? Well, there are 2 big costs. There are staff costs that account for 4/5 of the total cost, and then there's premises. There are premises costs that account for 1/10. So those are the 2 big ones. So again here, why are staff costs so high? Well, 3/4 are directors, and the other reason is a low number of junior staff. So it's a very top-heavy firm. So then we sort of look at 3/4 are directors. Why is that? Why are there so many directors? Well, firstly, it's a stable firm, so few leavers. And another reason is just a high number of management posts. Why is the number of junior staff so low? So if we bring that down here and say why for this, well, let's just say that's a decision by management to have less junior staff. If we go down the premises branch, sort of why is this 1/10? Well, let's just say the plan was underestimated, and so it was higher than what it turned out to be. That's why the cost was higher. So if we look at this tree structure very quickly, we can see that as we go down the branches, we've got our proximate causes of why the firm is making a loss. The income is too low and the costs are too high. But if we go further down, we can see that we've got some reasons here, and we've only gone down 4 whys instead of 5. 5 is not a law of nature, let's say. It's sort of a rule of thumb. These are your root causes. And so now that we've established the root cause, we can think of a solution which may be able to help the firm in the future. So as you can see, the 5 whys method is useful for helping to determine the proximate and root causes and offer up possible solutions. And this is the proximate versus root cause mental model. Just to add, in this video I mentioned the first principles mental model and the thought experiment mental model. The point I'm making is that mental models are interconnected. As I explain more mental models in my videos, these connections between models will be more evident. And the aim is to be able to use multiple mental models together to develop a higher form of understanding, think clearer, and make better and more well-informed decisions. Just as you would use multiple tools such as a hammer, screwdriver, drill, spirit level to put up a wooden shelf, you should use multiple mental models to solve problems. And in order to be able to use the correct tools, we need to understand and know how to use them so that we know which ones and when to use them. In other words, there's no point using a digital multimeter to put up a wooden shelf. Going back to another mental model, the map is not the territory. So as you can see, these are all interconnected. So this is the proximate versus root cause mental model. That's all for this video. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one with another mental model. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.